And the first panel that we have today is called In the Know, in the Grow. Those are my rhymes, not anybody else's, so if you don't like it, you can come see me. We really wanted to start the day at the beginning of the supply chain of cannabis, and so I want to welcome up Sherry Boudram from Can Delta. She'll be moderating the panel. We have John Prentice, the CEO of Ample Organics, Chris Budd, honestly, Chris Budd is his name. He's the president of Isolocity, and Brian Coots of A&L Canada Labs. Thanks, everybody.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome the panelists that we have on stage, a phenomenal group that we have here. And yes, I do love the name of this panel, In the Know, in the Grow. And I think what's really interesting about it and what I love is that they're not growers by any sense of the word, but they do help the industry grow by the technologies that they offer. And I guess just to start, how about we just quickly say what each of your companies do and what your services are, just so people get an idea of where you're coming from.
Yeah, so Brian Coots, A&L Labs. I come from the agricultural background. We're an analytical testing lab. We come from the agricultural side, so we're 34 years old. We've been testing soil, water, plant, tissue for 34 years, and then for about 3.5 years, cannabis. The one thing that sets us apart versus other labs is our ability to tie it in back to the plant, the genetics, disease testing, that sort of thing. So not only, we do the Health Canada testing that's required, we can help the LPs and growers grow.
Chris Budd with Isolocity. Isolocity is a QMS GMP software. So what we do is take all that paperwork away from your operations and make it more automated and easy to follow. We help clients achieve ISO certification, GMP certification, EU certification with our software. So we do everything that traditional seed sales softwares don't do from a QMS perspective, and that's what we do.
Awesome. Hey, I'm John Prentice. I'm the president, CEO, and founder of Ample Organics. So what we do is we do inventory management and compliance reporting for the industry. So today, roughly just over 70% of the licensed producers in the country run our software platform for compliance and inventory management. And of course, we report that all into Health Canada and keep everybody licensed and shipping medical cannabis and recreational cannabis to the markets.
Great. So your technologies are obviously very imperative to the growth of the industry. You're involved not only in the beginning of the chain, but I think really throughout, and you're kind of continuous and iterative in the process and very important in the overall business. And I think that now, as people are becoming very aware of the fact that they want products that are very standardized, that they want consistency, they want a consistent user experience, how do you think that your technology helps to standardize and improve not just the cultivation process, but even the downstream manufacturing and processing?
Everybody's looking towards me. So definitely on the grow side, right? It's a plant. You have to pay attention to plant physiology. So using data from sensors, from drones, from robots in the field, in the greenhouse and the grow, all that data. And to compile it and analyze it will help you grow a better, we're basically growing cannabinoids, so you have to use that data to do a better job and learn that specific strain. So I think that's key, like right from the front end of it, and using sensors or drone or satellite imagery to learn that plant and to try and ID it before it gets sick, before it gets low on moisture, right? You have to pay attention to it. So,
from our perspective, looking at all the massaging of the plants as far as a QMS perspective is concerned, tracking the additives, doing all the quality reports that surround those activities, finding a way to standardize that process and eliminating the human element is very important from that perspective, because every time you have, or you're relying on a human interaction, whether it be picking up a piece of pencil and putting it onto paper, you're asking for errors and risks in the process. So what we're trying to do is take that away from the operator and have it more automated with Isolocity. So the system automatically generates these reports for you based on good data inputs. So de-risking the whole process by eliminating the human element and making it easier for these companies to be compliant to QMS regulations.
Yeah, and on the Ample side, really where we focus is inventory serialization and tracking. So, if you're looking at deviation or non-conformance reports for a specific batch, chances are the identification of that batch is conducted through your seed-to-sale software, which would be Ample Organics. And likewise, if you're sending a lab sample out, you're going to have an identifier on that lab sample tying it back to the inventory that you're producing. And that correlation is done by your seed-to-sale system, which is where Ample sits. So we take the data from the laboratory, tie it to the product, and then push that through e-commerce and into the supply chain to make sure that this product is fully compliant and those certificates of manufacture and analysis are available throughout the supply chain.
So you were talking about the plant and tracking the plant and the sensors. I know, Brian, you were talking about that. Now that there's really a rise of people expanding their types of cultivation and bringing those skills into the market, you see aeroponics, aquaponics. There's so many different types that people are trying to look at. Tissue culture, how are you finding that that's complicating what you're doing, or is it even complicating what you're doing? And what are some of the things that you're doing to help to not just help that operation move forward, but also incorporate some of the things that your client wants to help make their lives easier?
Yeah, so back to the plant physiology, right? The plant can only do so much. Everybody has many LPs, growers, right? Every master grower is the best grower, right? We've all met them. But everybody has their own thoughts, and you have to pay attention to the plant. And you have to use data to make educated decisions for success.
And I mean, from our perspective, when you're introducing new strains or new product into your facility, from the QMS side of things, you need to be able to track the sustainability of that plant. What's going wrong? Are you getting mold growth? So correlating all that data in your QMS allows you to predict what's going to succeed and what's going to fail. So providing an easy-to-use, clonable format that's standardized for clients to add new product into allows them to start capturing the important data sooner and easier.
Yeah, and I think on our side, sorry to...
Yeah, no, I was just correcting my grammar.
Oh, okay. And I think on our side, really kind of looking at that whole kind of conundrum of different operating procedures by facility. I think when you look at the cannabis industry holistically, it's a bit of a spectrum in terms of how everybody conducts the activities in these facilities. So it's pretty safe to assume that one licensed producer is not necessarily following the exact same process as the next licensed producer, and we see wide variation in terms of how things are done. You go into some licensed producers and they're cultivating their strains from seeds, and other licensed producers are trying to do tissue culture, and some are doing cloning. So you have to be as flexible and agile as possible as a platform to encompass all of these different styles of growing and operational parameters that you're going to find in these facilities. To give you an example, what we're starting to notice now is that you're getting into these larger scale facilities that are 150, 200,000, 300,000 square feet, and it's no longer efficient to put a barcode on every single plant. So at this point, trusting on good technology being running in these facilities is critical to be able to track plants at a batch level, because the regulator is ultimately going to need to have confidence that when they go in there and look at those batch records, they're accurate and they're able to reconcile that inventory all the way back.
Mm-hmm. Are you finding any challenges from indoor and outdoor cultivation, or are you making any special accommodations for any of your softwares for that, or is that kind of standard run-of-the-mill?
Yeah, I did mention we also have a cultivation software called AL CanTrace, and so that's from seed to harvest, focusing on the agriculture, the growing side of it. It has inventory management as well, and some QMS and compliance. So, but we're an agricultural lab and analytical testing, so we try and focus in our space. We'll leave some of these other great softwares up to these guys, but yeah, that data, needs to pull back, and you have to learn from it. Outdoor grow, we're going to learn lots the next month on a field scale, right? And that's where it's going to, I think more data should have been used this year on some of the outdoor grows to make decisions faster, right? Because once you see a plant, if it's a bit yellow or off or wilted, you've lost, right, some of your production and quality. So learn every year for sure.
Yeah, definitely learning every year. I think the industry obviously moves very quickly, and every day just seems, if you've been in the industry for 2 years, you're ancient, right? So I mean, the commercial cultivation of cannabis, that whole program in Canada really started in 2013. And when I think about, when I used to be an inspector at Health Canada, when we used to go and inspect facilities, even, Tweed and Tweed Farms, and we'd ask them, okay, can you show us these records? They would give us an Excel sheet and with all these different tabs and hand us their laptops and be like, here you go. And it's like, okay, well, can you print these? And they're like, trying to print it. And I think you guys are actually making it a lot easier by, consolidating that and increasing the efficiency. What are some of the changes that you've seen from the industry early on? John, you're like an OG. You've been around for a while. What are some of the major changes you've seen and from before to now, and where do you think that's going to be projected?
Yeah, I've lived through all of it now, I think. So, for those of you that don't know me, my background really started in 2012 when I helped to craft the first application that was approved by Health Canada for a licensed producer, which was the Peace Naturals project. So when Sherry says I'm an OG, I guess I've been here since day one. So I've seen the MMPR, I've seen the ACMPR, I've seen the Cannabis Act and all of the variations between that. And I think, we're finally getting to a state 5 years in where we're starting to get some maturity and some stabilization. So that's a really good thing, and hopefully we'll see some standardization of process and regulation and some consistency over the next 3-4 years before we go making big changes again. That'd be great.
So I want to talk a little bit about the new products that are coming out and some of the ways that you're thinking to prepare for that, especially when all these new ingredients are also being brought into facilities, and you're going to have to be testing those, and they may have more complex matrices. How is your software able to handle all of these new changes?
Right. I guess I could start. Well, from a QMS perspective, we have the ability to put different lenses on our software. So if you're manufacturing cosmetics or edibles, or if you're processing oils, or you're just cultivating, our system's designed in a way that it allows the user to adjust the interface and the workflows required to meet those specific instances. So we've already built this in our software with new regulations and new businesses coming down the road. So from our perspective, we have that already built in, and we understand there are use cases because we already have cosmetic clients and food clients in other sectors using our software for this very purpose.
Yeah. I can chime in on that a little bit too. So, our development team right now is obviously very hard at work getting ready for Cannabis 2.0, and we expect that update rolling out here in the next 2 weeks, which is very exciting. I think from our perspective, there is no perfect solution for the industry. I think that's something that I've definitely become aware of over the last 5 years of doing this is, our software is great for some applications and it's not for others. And I think from our perspective, we've got a lot of strength in terms of the edibles and infused products side from a compliance perspective, but we're really relying on the systems that these licensed producers have already adopted for raw materials management and facility asset management and all the other components that are going to be involved in this manufacturing kind of process that's about to ensue. If there was a perfect solution, obviously everybody would be using it. So really what we try to do is be as adaptable and as integratable as possible with all of these different solutions to create an ecosystem that works for our customers.
Okay. So all of your technologies and softwares can be, to, I guess, some extent customizable, and if a client is looking for one particular thing, and obviously the industry is moving in a direction now where it's less vertically integrated. People are not so much wanting to be a jack of all trades and doing everything under their umbrella. And I think if they're really looking to hone in on one particular skill and do that, you could obviously customize your software for that particular thing. And it's interesting, we were talking about all these new products and how your softwares are going to be able to accommodate that. So Brian, in particular, with your company, and you're doing analytical testing, with these new products that are coming out, we have a lot of conversations, not just in our office, but with clients, with other labs, about the testing of finished products with all these ingredients and how difficult it is to test in all these different matrices. And it seems like there's actually some confusion on when the testing should actually occur. Should it be at the beginning when all these ingredients are coming into the facility, or is it the finished product? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so some of the new Health Canada rules, right? is to test the flower right before extraction, and this will tie into the next panel as well. But so that should take out some of the confusion. We're learning along the way, right? There's no rule book. We're coming up with methods and validations and trusting science to do that. You know, spike samples and do our quality control analysis, and then building a validation that the PhDs are happy with.
Okay, good. And what role do you think that your clients have in shaping your business currently and influencing how you're developing your softwares, and especially with, you know, as we're saying, all these new different products that are coming out? It seems like a new product is coming out every day. How easy or difficult is it for you to adapt?
Yeah, I guess, you know, from my perspective, it's changing all the time. As I alluded to earlier, everybody's got a different way of doing things, and they would all, you know, in an ideal world, love to have their software encompass that workflow perfectly, and that's just not feasible. So, you know, we're always changing and adapting, but the biggest kind of source for feedback and our guiding star is really our customer. They're going to tell us what they need the most, and you know, between that and the regulations, those are the two things that direct our software development primarily.
Absolutely, I echo that. We launched in 2016, and everything we've done in our software has been driven by customer requests. You let your customer tell you what your product should be, to a certain extent, obviously, but you make sure that they're happy and they're getting the most value out of their product, out of your product, and they're using it to its fullest capability. So you let the customers tell you what they need, and you provide it for them.
Yeah, ditto. It's customer driven, right? It's especially in the cannabis industry. We're all learning together. We're building an industry, so you know everybody has a different thought, and that will extend right through to the consumer, right? There'll be good quality product, there'll be low quality product. Some product will go to extraction, some not. So, right, that's just the supply and demand and the hierarchy of what they'll achieve for price. But it's all about, you know, working with your customer and you know, providing them a solution.
And what are you each doing for targeting some of these international markets right now and incorporating not just, you know, new companies that are happening independently of Canada in other countries, but there are companies that are in Canada that are looking to put boots on the ground in other countries, and they still want to have the two companies speak to each other in some way. How are you adapting your technologies to accommodate that?
Yeah, I heard the expression, I think it was on Jay's, one of Jay's videos, was hockey stick growth, right? I think we're all struggling to keep up with demand here in Canada, but you definitely have to keep your eye on the ball. So we have a lot of accreditations, GLP, SEC, CFIA, but so on an international front, we will be GMP here shortly, and then after that we'll get EU designation, and then we'll look at some, you know, probably Europe would be first, but you know, we have to look that way, but first things first, we have to look after Canada.
We already have cannabis clients in the United Kingdom, Australia, Jamaica, and Colombia currently. Our strategy to grow internationally is to utilize value-added resellers in those markets. So from our perspective, how we help, you know, whether the corporations be stationed here up in Toronto and having facilities around the world, we provide them the ability to do roll-up reporting and have different silos in our database so they can have multiple locations under management that roll up into a nice corporate dashboard. And so we've provided an infrastructure already for that type of rollout, and some of our clients are currently using it that way for its capacity.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Sherry. I think, you know, ultimately it comes down to having a homogenous infrastructure across your organization. So, you know, what's been a really good boon for Ample is a lot of our clients expanding internationally. So that has opened the doors to us internationally as well, and we've picked up some new clients internationally also. So today we have companies running in Colombia, Jamaica. We're about to fire up some stuff in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in Germany. I think we've got some stuff in South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia, and it just keeps growing. It never seems to end. So, you know, the hockey stick effect is definitely real. In fact, about 35 minutes ago, Ample Organics was awarded by the Globe and Mail with one of Canada's top growing company awards. So we're doing pretty good.
All right, good job. That's awesome.
That's amazing. Congrats. you know, we've heard recently in the news often about non-compliances and Health Canada really looking closely at a lot of these companies and their compliance and what they have in place, not just from the management, but you know, all of these systems in place that help to make a facility compliant. How do you think that your relationship with the client really feeds into that? Because I think a lot of times we get, as a consulting company, you get clients that come to us and you know they know, okay, somewhere along the lines they need all of these things and you know QMS and record keeping and all of this. But it's really a big undertaking, I think, for a lot of people, and it's a lot to know, a lot to learn, and obviously having a good team is very important within their organization. But how do you help support them to be able to make them know that technology really does play into the cannabis industry, and it's really something that they need to have a continuous sort of relationship with?
Depending on the person, some people embrace data and sensors and technology, others don't. The guys that don't, sooner or later they'll be in the ditch, so to speak, and they'll call you, and then you can help them. And you say, okay, here's an example that if you had had this data or this technology, it would have helped you. So I think there's that side of it, and then the people that love technology, it's just showing them how it can save them or make them money, and use it. Like there's so much out there. It's great on the growing side for sure.
Yeah, it's really easy from what we do. It's before and after snapshot, like tons of paper or automated electronic system. So from our perspective, it's a pretty easy sell. But having said that, though, going back to the relationship, it's very important to build a trusting relationship with your customers, because I find in the cannabis industry, more so than other industries, the relationships are what forge partnerships with your clients and keep your clients relying on you and trusting you for advice and providing a good service and product for them to use, for them to get more value out of their business. So we pride ourselves on customer service at Isolocity, and we're always on the phones with our clients, making sure they're good, they're happy, they're using the system. Is there anything they can recommend? How can we augment the system for them to meet their unique needs?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You know, we often look at Ample Organics as a technology company, and I think, sure, we're a company that makes technology, but ultimately we're a service business. We're here to support our customers, whether you know they're having a great quarter or a horrible quarter, with white glove customer support. We have a team of account managers. I see two of them in the front row here, Louisa and Jamie, who work so hard to get on the phone with our clients constantly, listen to everything that's going on in their facility, advise them using the expertise we've gained over the last 5 years of working with hundreds of licensed companies across the world, and really try to guide them on a pathway of success. And that's the value that we bring over and above the technology that we employ in these facilities. And I think that has been a critical component in making Ample such a successful business.
Yeah, totally agree. So I have an interesting question. So I know there are a lot of companies that are here. Some have some booths. Some have some new technologies that they're looking to bring into the market. You guys have kind of been around for a while, and you've brought some of your software and your ideas not just to your customers, which are the producers or license holders, but you're also obviously looking for that support from Health Canada and having to navigate them to some extent. What's some advice that you have to these companies, and what are maybe some lessons learned as well?
Just be involved in some of the different associations, on quality. There's the C45 association, right? So that's getting the QA professionals across Canada together in some committees to work together and provide standardization across Canada, and then ultimately the world. So get involved and partner up. Like we're building this together. So don't be proud, be humble, partner up, and let's do great work.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. And on top of that too, be thinking about step 4 and 5, even though when you're in step 1 right now, because 4 and 5 is going to come quickly, and when it does, you want to be prepared to then take action and then get your technology stack in place, convert from a paper-based system to an electronic system, and have that ready to go for when you can scale, and you can scale in a sustainable manner.
I think Health Canada, obviously very important regulator. we have to work with them constantly. I've always kind of equated them a little bit to my weird roommate that looks through my underwear drawer but doesn't really talk to me. And in that regard, we have a very passive relationship with Health Canada, simply because Health Canada is not going to come in and tell you how to build software to service the industry, nor are they going to go out there and recommend your product to licensees. That's not what they're there to do. They're really there to ensure compliance and that everybody's doing things as they should be. So when they need you, they'll involve you and just always be available to answer their questions and be as helpful as possible. And I think that'll get you pretty far.
Yeah, and I think that being said, Health Canada is still open to having conversations with people. When I was an inspector there, we did get trained on ample organics, so it is possible. So I think if you do want Health Canada to see your technology and at least understand it, if you have that conversation with them, I think that they're also open to that and also interested in working with the industry as well. If you were to ask Health Canada a question right now to help your business, what would that be?
I'd love to know what the next regulatory change is. If you give me about 6 months notice, that'd be great.
And not launch things on Fridays on a long weekend.
Too many questions.
Yeah, too many questions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so far, what scares you and what excites you about not just this industry, but technology and where that's headed?
Well, I guess what scares me is how quickly it's moving. And if you're not able to keep up, you're going to get left behind, which is also really exciting too.
Yeah.
So it's the opportunity to stay ahead as well. So I find that both frightening and exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the data keeps me up at night. We house the healthcare information of over 800,000 Canadians as a part of Ample Organics, and I think we take that very seriously. We've never had a data breach. We don't intend on having a data breach, and we take every measure that we can to prevent a data breach. But I mean, as this data continues to collect across multiple systems, we can't always vet the pedigree of the developer of that technology. And I think, we've seen it in the US, we've seen some data breaches down there from regulator systems where tons of patient information has been leaked. We don't want to see that happen here. And I think that's the part that I think about the most, because unfortunately, as much as the stigma around cannabis is subsiding, it's still there. And we don't want to identify people who don't unnecessarily need to be identified as cannabis users. So,
I think on the strain side, figuring that out, there's so much potential there, as well as the terpenes. I think we all believe that terpenes are important, but I think there's so much more to learn, definitely. And just keeping up with the industry, right? We have meetings every Monday, and it's just like, okay, how many people do we need to hire? How much equipment do we need to buy? And it's, to your point, to look ahead, you really have to plan far ahead to keep up in this industry. So it's great.
So we all agree it's slightly terrifying, but probably more exciting. Yeah. And we're all very privileged to be here. So I just want to give thanks to the panelists today and give them a big round of applause for all of their expertise and input.